Happy August! Let's talk about books. What did I read in July? What did you read in July? Let's dive into my reading journal, set up some review pages, look at my reading stats for July, and also set up some tracking pages for August. Hi, I'm Erin, and I'm in kind of a life slump at the moment, which has affected my reading, so I guess I'm also in a reading slump as a result. I'm a little bit sick at the moment, so my apologies if my voice sounds a little weird. It sounds weird inside my own skull, hopefully out loud, it's not too bad. I'm doing all of my reading journal updates in one go this time, all in one day. Usually I try to space it out over the month if I'm reading a bit more, but this was a pretty slow reading month for me, so we're just gonna go all in one. We're starting out with my annual trackers at the beginning of my reading journal. This one here, my books read list, is literally what it sounds like. It's just a list of all the books I've read over the course of the year, but I didn't update a couple of these at the end of last month, so there are a few books here that I have already set up review pages for that I just needed to add to this list too. So A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer and The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, I both actually technically read in June, they just weren't on the list yet. When I was setting this journal up for the new year, I made sure I left myself lots of space, and I finally get to turn the page and use the back of this Dutch door for the rest of my list with book number 38 for the year. I am way behind where I was last year, but I'm okay with that. Just going to update my Page Mages book club spread here. In case you aren't familiar, Page Mages is my very own book club that I run through the channel membership program here on YouTube and via my private Discord server that's just for channel members. Our book for this month is Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and you can still get involved in the book club for that one this month if you like. You can scan the QR code on the screen or you can hit the join link in the description. Here's another thing I didn't update that was technically from last month's updates. I have finished the Cursebreaker series by Bridget Kemmerer, so I got to cross that one off. I am currently reading Legendborn by Tracy Dion, so I can cross that off my maybe next list as well. And let's flip forward to my July tracking progress spread and make some updates to this calendar, because I haven't done any. When I set up my July theme, I didn't really consider that I was using fairly similar colours to what I used for my June theme, and I wanted to use different markers to make it really obvious that this is a different month. So instead of my usual Tombow Jewel brush pens, I'm using some paint markers that I picked up from Journal Say this time, and they're actually quite fun. They're very opaque. Very much on the juicy side though, they're a little bit wet. You have to let them dry down for a minute before you can write on top of them, which is what I like to do with this calendar, so I needed to be a little bit more patient than usual, but I like the way it looks. I'm usually pretty easy to please as far as reading. I tend to just pick a book off my maybe next TBR kind of a list, or a friend will recommend something and I go, yeah, I'll read that next. But I had so much trouble choosing the books I wanted to read in July, and I even started a couple of books and was like, this is not the time for this, and put them on hold, which is so unusual for me. And I'm actually introducing a new page into the beginning of the journal later on in this video to track those books that I've put on hold, just so I don't completely forget about them. We will come back to this spread at the end of this video too and fill out my reading stats for the month, but I'm going to spoil one of them for you now, and that is my average time to finish a book in July, because it was very long. It was 14 days. I was traveling for a little bit of the month. I wasn't at home, and so I wasn't reading while I was away, and then I got kind of burned out, and then I got sick, and that sounds like a perfect recipe for reading more, I guess, but I was so tired that I didn't really want to focus on something too much, so I just watched old TV really to recover instead, because I didn't really have to think about that. End result of all of the above, I only read 4 books this month, and that's pretty few books for me, but it has been somewhat standard for me to read a lot less overall this year, and I'm just not questioning it. I'm just going to roll with it and keep enjoying the books that I read and try not to compete with where I was at last year versus this year, because I'm just in a different place and that's not fair to do to myself. So trying to be kind to myself, you know. A little bit of foreshadowing there with a couple of the book covers we just placed down, but we'll come back to that later. Now we're going to get stuck into some book review pages, and I am going to tell you my thoughts about the books that I read in the month of July. I will have spoilers written into my reviews on the page, but I will never give you spoilers in the voiceover, so read at your own peril, but don't worry about me spoiling things for you otherwise. The first book I finished in July was Serpents of Sky and Flame by Rebecca F. Kenney. This one came as part of a book subscription box that I am testing out at the moment. I will have a review about that subscription once I have tested enough months for it to be a complete overview of the service, but this one I actually read in a physical book, which I never do. It was very strange. It was a hardcover, beautiful special edition of this book, and it was quite an enjoyable experience to hold a book in my hands. I haven't wanted to do that in a very long time. The book itself, though, not my favorite. As you can probably tell from my choice of decoration for this spread, there are dragons in this book, and I'm using these Journal Say Dragon stickers. I actually don't really like these stickers. They're very AI, but I didn't really like the book either, so I feel like they kind of deserve each other. To be honest, I didn't not enjoy the book. It was a very easy book to read. If you are someone who gets some enjoyment out of, for instance, the Ice Planet Barbarian series, you might get on okay with this book, but I did find that it took a big nosedive towards the last third of the book. Like, we hit a point and then it was just like, oh, it's just smart from here on out. Okay. Disclaimer, I am so on board with a spicy book, but I need the spice to further the plot in some way, and this did not do that. We just kind of devolved in the last third of the book, so that was really disappointing for me. This book has dual points of view. You spend some of it as Kirigan, he is a dragon, and all of the females of his species have been eliminated in a war, and so he's taken some human women prisoner with the plan to have them magically transformed into dragons so that they can continue their species. But one of those women he's taken captive is Cyrilla, a princess of the humans, and she is not having a bar of it, and she is the other point of view. I know that actually sounds like a pretty interesting plot, and I agree. I think it had some potential, but the writing for this book really just didn't cut it for me. The characters were really inconsistent, particularly in the way that they spoke and the way they spoke to each other. And the book ended on a cliffhanger, but it was a really disappointing, unsatisfying cliffhanger, and I honestly have no desire to continue the series, so I'm going to leave this one right here. This one was my first experience of this subscription box, so I'm really hoping that this isn't setting the bar for the quality of the books that are included. It did come with some really hilarious, not safe for work artwork though, which was quite funny. I'm rating this one and all of the books in this video on my Peach rating system, which is a system that I devised to rate books. I have a video about it in case you're interested in finding out how it works, but I'm giving Serpents of Sky and Flame 3 out of 5 for plot, 2.5 for enjoyment, 2 for artistry, 2.5 for characters, and 2 for heart, which brings us to 12 out of 25, which gives it an overall star rating of 2.4. I like to have that information on my dashboard spread as well, with all of my book covers and star ratings for the month. And if you're also using the Peach rating system and you liked the look of my little sticker, those are available as a free sign-up perk when you subscribe to my Substack newsletter. There is a link in the description in case you're interested. You can get them either as a full sheet that you can print out and cut out with scissors, or as a single sticker so you can use your cutting machine of choice to cut individual stickers on a little kiss cut sheet if you want to. From the book that I enjoyed least this month, straight to the book that I enjoyed the most, the spread we're now setting up with the assistance of my lovely cat Peaches, who I named my rating system after. This spread is for Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. And this book is magical, which is why I'm using some magical ephemera to really bring out that vibe. By the way, if you like the look of any of the stationery I'm using in this video, I have links in the description to as much of it as I possibly can. If it's still available, I'll have a link there for you. Some of it maybe won't be. Sorry about that. Ashley Poston's books are contemporary romance with a little bit of a magical twist, but the magical twist isn't the whole point of the story. The protagonist of this book, Joni, is a professional songwriter, and she's just had a huge hit, make it big. She's on top of the world, but in her personal life, she's actually really struggling. She starts noticing that she has a song in her head, and she's trying to work out if she's heard it before, where does she know it from, and then she realizes it's not just music she can hear in her head, she can also hear the thoughts of an unknown person. And they can hear the song too. I don't want to tell you too much more because I don't want to give anything away, but I just was so immersed in this book. It gave me butterflies. I loved every second of reading it. I did this one on ebook, and I really think the best way that I can describe this book is that it is an ode to being completely and entirely seen by somebody who loves you and radically accepted. It's just such a beautiful love story. Also, I was personally quite invested in this one because, in case you weren't aware of my background, I studied music composition at university, and you would not believe how often authors use musical language devices to try and describe something, and they do it in a way that's completely wrong. And I understand hyperbole. It's okay for you to say that somebody's voice goes up 2 octaves if you're exaggerating, but for someone's voice to actually go up 2 octaves while they're speaking would be freaking wild. So as a person with an actual music composition background, granted I haven't written a song in a very long time, it is on my bingo for this year, but I haven't got to it yet. But it was really obvious to me that either Ashley Poston is a musician herself on some level, or she did her research really, really thoroughly, because the descriptions of music and the descriptions of what it can feel like to write a song that you're really excited about in this story are very accurate to my experience, and I loved that. I also really loved that I finally got to give this gorgeous piano sticker from Sticky a pride of place on a reading journal spread. It was the perfect colour scheme to match this washi tape and PET sheet sticker 1-2 punch. They're colours that are also present in the book cover, which always makes me really happy. And the fact that there are essentially stars spilling out of this grand piano just seems really appropriate to the book. So I'm really happy with the way this page came together. Also, I believe there is an official song for this book that is supposed to be the song from the book. I had to listen to it on Spotify and I don't really rate it, so that's just my opinion, but if you like it, that's great. I accidentally got my rating a little bit wrong here when I was first filling it out, but this one has ended up with 4.6, which when you're colouring in the star rating stamp, it's a little tricky to get 4.6 really represented, so 4.5 is accurate enough, I think, and I loved it so much it's going in my Hall of Fame, of course. Anything that gets above a 4-star rating this year is going in my Hall of Fame. If you're curious about how I print the book covers for my reading journal, I have a video about that too. I like to cut mine out as kiss cut stickers with my Cricut just because I have that functionality available to me. I know some people who don't have a cutting machine prefer to use Microsoft Word or similar. In case you're interested in the sizing that I use, I do 3.75 centimeters for my small book covers and 7.5 centimeters for my larger book covers, but I am working in a 9x9 inch square journal and it is huge, so your mileage may vary if you're using a smaller journal than me. You may find that you need to scale those down a little bit to allow you to still have enough page space, depending on what you're trying to do with them. We've moved on to our next review page here, and this one I'm actually dividing into two. This is what I do when I don't feel like I have the right stickers or washi tapes to decorate a page for a particular book, or if I just didn't vibe with it enough to give it that kind of experience. I did enjoy this book. This one is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. A few of you actually recommended me this one on some previous reading journal videos, so thank you so much for your suggestions. I always really appreciate them. I just realized that I am trying to track the release year for the books that I'm writing reviews about this year, so I didn't include those on the previous. I had to scoot back and add those. The Familiar is a historical fantasy romance that's set in the Spanish Golden Age. Our protagonist, Lucia, is a scullery maid, but she secretly has magic and she uses it to help her get through her days. When the lady of the house discovers that Lucia has magic, she tries to leverage it to her advantage to elevate her own social status and get kind of a leg up in society, and all sorts of hijinks ensue. I actually think this is a great book. I think I just read it at the wrong time for my headspace. This is the only audiobook that I listen to throughout all of July. Usually audiobook is my biggest category. I typically find them the easiest way to consume a book, but I just have not wanted to listen to books lately, so that was quite difficult for me. I've been favouring podcasts a lot because I find that they require less mental energy than focusing on a book. And this one also took me almost the entire month from the 3rd to the 26th of July to get through on audiobook, which is so unusual for me. Usually I'm pretty snappy about it, so the fact that it took so long meant that I was forgetting details. I really should have just put it on hold, on pause, but I wanted to stick it out because I was somewhat interested. So I'm giving this one 3.6 stars, so 3.5 the way it shows up on the star rating. I do think it has merit. I think I just wasn't in the correct headspace for it at the time. And if I had read this last year, or if I tried it again in the future, I might find that I have a very different experience. I also just didn't really have the right stationery for it, hence it getting a very bland page over there. I have space for another book to go next to it, but this one I did have some stationery that I thought was a good match for, and I loved the experience of this book, so this one's getting a pretty page. This one is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandanna. Typically the decorations I go with for my book review pages somewhat mirror the book cover. I try to go for similar colours and that kind of thing. This one, I'm going in a bit of a different direction, but I'm using this salmony pink washi tape to try and tie in the book cover, which is kind of a teal, green and pink. And the PET tape I'm using to decorate this one with these cute little spooky houses is from the Washi Tape Shop's Halloween collection last year, so you can't get this one anymore, I'm very sorry, but I had been holding onto it and I thought this is the perfect time to use it because the inn in the title of this book is almost a character in itself, and I really do love the trope of a sentient house in a fantasy book. This one maybe isn't quite entirely sentient, but it's bordering on it, it's getting there. I also don't think that we spent a lot of time in autumn in the book. I can mostly recall winter, but this is the tape I had that felt like the right vibe, so I'm just going to go with it. This book is so good. Let me just say, if you loved the Practical Magic movie that came out in 1998 and then you went and read Alice Hoffman's Practical Magic book to try and capture some of that vibe, and then you were like, what the heck is this? It's completely different. Like I did last year. That was disappointing. This book, A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, is the one that you actually need to be reading. This is the book that will recapture that vibe for you. I feel like a lot of books use the term cozy as kind of a marketing buzzword these days. This is the first one of those books that I have felt is actually genuinely really cozy. If you have read Sangu Mandanna's previous book before this one, which is A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, you can probably imagine how very charming this book is going to be. Don't let the cover similarities fool you. They're not a series, they are both standalone books, but they have very similar wonderfulness about them. Our main character, Sarah, is a witch, and she was very, very powerful when she was younger, but some big upheaval in her personal life forced her to do some really drastic magic to save someone that she loved in a way that it kind of exhausted her forever, and she lost access to her power. Now she's in her 30s and she runs an inn in Lancashire in England that can only be found by people who really need the love and protection of this magical place, thanks to a spell that she cast on it back when she was younger. But Sarah's found out that there's a way she can get her magic back, and she is so keen to fight for it. There is a romance subplot in this one, which is really lovely, and I feel like this whole story is about love, not just about the romantic love that's obviously going to be present in a romance story, but also the familial love and the found family love and the love of a place that means something special to you. It's also a story about identity and forgiving yourself, and it's just spectacular. I loved every second. I actually read this one pretty quickly compared to the rest of the books I read in July. A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping actually only came out very recently. It was released on the 15th of July, so maybe you can tell I've been waiting for this one. I was really looking forward to it, and it did not disappoint. Also, just as a little side note, this is the second book I've read this year that has some kind of an altered chicken. This one has a kind of zombie skeleton chicken in the story. Nettle and Bone, which I read a couple of months ago, also had a possessed chicken, I think. So, bit of a theme for me this year, which is strange. Something to know about me is that I'm not a big rereader. I very rarely will go back and read a book a second time, but this is a book that I would absolutely revisit in the future, and the same for Sounds Like Love. I would go back and reread that one as well. So having 2 books in a single month that I would very happily reread means it's been a really good month. I gave this one 4.5 stars. So a slow reading month, but also a pretty solid reading month too. I'm just going to update my star rating on my July dashboard spread here, and then we're going to flip back to my Hall of Fame spread and make sure that A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping is on here too, because it deserves to be. That's it for the reviews of the books that I read in July, but we're not done yet. We've still got to set up some tracking pages for August and fill out my July reading stats too. In last month's reading journal video, I was talking about how I hadn't had the chance to try out waterfall tabs in this journal yet, and I really wanted to, and you guys encouraged me to. So for August, I am going to really sacrifice some paper here, get really indulgent with the way I'm setting up my dashboard and make it take up 3 whole spreads. Because why not? I want to start a new reading journal for the beginning of next year. It doesn't look like I'm going to run out of pages in this one at the rate that I am reading, so why not take up some extra space with some pretty stuff for no reason at all except that I want to. Just in case this is your first time coming across waterfall tabs in a journal, the idea here is that you progressively remove more and more paper from consecutive pages so that they kind of lay on top of each other and make this cascading waterfall effect. Guess what? I have an in-depth video about how to do it in case you'd like to learn, so I won't go into it too much in this video. But the way I'm going to approach it is that my first spread will be my cover spread, so it'll just be about introducing the theme. The second spread will be my calendar and my book covers tracking ratings page. And the third spread will be for my July reading statistics. Way back at the beginning of this book, I have a bookshelf tracker. We didn't update it at the beginning of this video, but we will get to it in a minute, so you'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. But I had set myself a reading goal, and I was using that bookshelf tracker to map my progress towards that goal. And just for funsies, I like to colour in all of the books that I read in a single month in a colour that matches the theme that I used to set up the dashboard spread for that month. So for instance, my July spread will have kind of a tannish beigeish brown, And unfortunately, I did a similar colour scheme for June, and so they have similar colours next to each other on the tracker. I wanted to make sure that I didn't fall into that trap and do something really similar again, so I've moved really far into the direction of purple for my theme this time. I have a lot of washi tapes, but some of them are very much horizontally oriented, and I wanted to choose some tapes that would work well vertically so that the waterfall tabs would look good, so I have discovered that means purple in my collection. The washi tape that sort of looks like tiles that I've used for the waterfall tab on this first spread is from Paper Monogatari's Afternoon in Paris set from summer last year. I just layered them next to each other so it would sort of look like a solid block. The colours don't perfectly match, but it's close enough. The botany style floral PET tape is from Journal Say, and the two smaller floral tapes that I've used in the centre there are both from London Gifties. I printed and cut all of my headings for this theme with my Cricut in a font called Babylonia, and I'm embellishing my cover page with some purple stickers from my sticker book, but these are originally from Lace and Whimsy Studio. I just store them in here because I finished up most of the sticker sheets, and that was a good way to keep the last few stickers organised. If you don't have a reusable sticker book in your life, you are missing out. They are a little tricky to find, but if you search for reusable sticker book, that seems to be the way to get the search terms to work for you. Or sometimes sticker release paper book will work too. There are some on Amazon, I'll link to one, but it's not the exact one I'm using here because I got this one from Stash World or Hubman and Chubgirl in an advent calendar. I have two and I never know which one I'm working from at the time. You can also just keep the backing of sticker sheets as you use them up and kind of DIY your own sticker book that way if you really can't get your hands on any. We're finished with the cover page now, so we're moving on to the next spread, and I'm just trying to stagger where I'm placing the washi tape down the side of the page here so that this looks like a pattern but not one that's too repetitive. The right page here is going to be my calendar because it is the larger of the two. I like to make my calendar spaces 4 dot grid spaces tall by 4 dot grid spaces wide, and this time I'm also including an extra dot grid space vertically, so I have a space to put the number for each day of the month. Thanks to the ridiculously expansive pages of this journal, 9 by 9 inch square, it's huge. I can actually fit the whole calendar on a single page, even having removed some paper and put all that washi tape down, so that's economical. This is where I'll track the start and end dates of the books that I read in August, just like we did back on the July calendar. I don't really get any useful data out of doing this, I just like it, it's fun, and I like seeing how the page looks at the end of the month, so I will continue to do it. The left page here is where all my book covers and star ratings will go for the books that I read in August. I don't anticipate that I'll be reading a huge amount more than I read in July, so I don't think I need to leave too much of the space open. I can go ahead and decorate a little bit, but if I do need to, I can always just pop the book covers over the top of the decoration, add my star rating on a bit of white sticker paper, and carry on like that. And our final spread for the August tracking section is going to be for my stats for August. I get these from an app called Storygraph. I don't really have to put too much effort in. I just kind of track when I start and finish a book and which format I read it in, and it does all the rest of it for me. I was trying out their paid version last month. I haven't continued with that. I just kind of gave it a go for the mid-year reading stats that I wanted to get out of it, but I cancelled that, so I'm just back to the free version now. There is a link to my story graph in the description in case you want to follow me or be friends over there. And I do also have Goodreads, there's a link to that too, but I'm not actively updating Goodreads anymore just because it's kind of redundant. I get more benefit out of story graph, so I'm just doing that one. Sometimes my Goodreads will automatically update because it's linked to my Kindle, so if I start a book and Kindle knows, it will tell Goodreads, but I'm not over there very often, just so you know. Just want to call out one of my stickers here. I actually really messed up. It's for the third pie chart and it's supposed to be fic/non for like fiction versus non-fiction. I didn't make the background that I was using for the cut line wide enough because I copied it off something else, but it's still cut right around the lettering. So I'm just going to use it like it is. I don't actually care. The background stops at the O in non and then the last N is just kind of floating on its own, but you can still read it. So I think it's fine. Given that I've been fitting all of these stats onto the left side of a single spread, this is a lot more space than I'm used to having, and I realised at this point I'd actually forgotten one of my headings, and I forgot it in my July setup too, which is why it wasn't here, because I was using my July setup as a reference when I made these headers. I was missing the genre section, and that was something I really wanted to include, so I ended up making some more stickers, some additional ones, so I could have a title on this spread that said August reading stats, and also so I could have my genre sticker, and I had this leftover space on the right side, so I've decided to bring back something I did last year. I had a book bracket spread in my journal last year. I don't have one this time, but I thought it would be cool to shout out a standout book for the month, so I'm going to use that extra space on the right page for that. Mixed so many patterns here, but I think the color scheme ties it all together. I'm really happy with how this looks. I'm going to go ahead and put one book cover down on my August Reads page here. I actually could have done two. I could have also put Legendborn down here because I have started it, my book club book for the month, but I forgot, so for now I've just got Ready or Not by Cara Bastone, which I'm also reading at the moment. Shout out to Azul Olympia who recommended me this one on one of my previous videos. Thank you, I'm enjoying it so much so far. We flipped all the way back to the start of the book and we're using one of the spare spreads I left myself. I knew I was going to think of things over the course of the year and want to add some more trackers and things, so I left a couple of blank pages. Right next to my did not finish page, I'm adding this new one. This is my on hold page. You may have noticed back on the July reading dashboard page, I had two book covers there that didn't have star ratings. That's because I didn't finish and I didn't really get too far into either of those books. Both of them are, funnily enough, Sarah J. Maas books. One is the final book in the Throne of Glass series and the other one is the first book in the Crescent City series. I just I'm really struggling with the Throne of Glass one. I don't enjoy the series anywhere near as much as I did enjoy ACOTAR. I know a lot of people love Throne of Glass more. It just isn't the case for me, unfortunately. I started it, I'm like 2 hours in, and I'm like, oh, this is so long. And I don't really care that much about the characters, so I'm in two minds about whether or not I should just DNF, not finish the series, but that feels kind of wrong when you're up to the last book in the series. I have some sunk cost fallacy involved here, I think, but that book is also like over a day long. It's like I'm listening to the audiobook and it's like 25 hours or something, so that's a bit daunting, especially right now when I'm not in the headspace for audiobooks, and I don't want to read it as an eyeball book either, so that one's on hold. That's Kingdom of Ash. House of Earth and Blood is the first one in the Crescent City series, and I started reading that one. I had the library ebook for it. I started reading it and I just was not interested. And then a friend messaged me and said, oh my goodness, I just read the first Crescent City book and I loved it. And I was like, oh, really? So I returned my ebook library hold after like 2 days, and I put in a hold for the audiobook, so when that one comes through, I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to resume it on a different format because I think it's one that doesn't need to be an eyeball read for me. I tend to save the books that I know I'm really going to enjoy to read with my eyeballs on an ebook, and that one I think just doesn't need to be that. So there you go. Hence the introduction of the on hold page, but I also think I could have benefited from this system when I started The Familiar. If I realized that it was something I would have enjoyed more at a different time, I could have put it on hold, but I didn't. I pushed through, and I think my experience of it suffered as a result, so introducing a new spread just for this purpose. I'm also adding some details on the spread so I know why I've put the book on hold and at what point I started the book so that I have some kind of a reference. I still have all the stationery I used to initially set up these pages in the journal, so it was pretty easy for me to just match it to the rest of the theme. Nobody need ever know that it wasn't there from the beginning of the year. Let's flip back to the bookshelf tracker here and colour in the books that I read throughout July. At some point I've counted wrong when colouring this in because I have the number at the end of each row for the number of books that are on that row so I can keep track, and it was wrong, so I had to colour over one to make that work. And one more page back is my book bingo. I can colour in mystery because Thursday Murder Club was a mystery last month's book club book. The top bingo here is a genre bingo and the bottom one is a romance trope bingo. So for the romance trope bingo, I'm colouring in Small Town and I'm assigning that one to Sounds Like Love. For my last trick, we're going to fill out the July reading stats for the month. So I completed 4 books in July. On average, it took me 14 days to finish a book. I read 903 pages and 15.4 hours worth of audiobook. I read 100% fiction throughout July, so I'm just going to colour in the whole pie chart down the bottom here in a solid colour. And I completed only 1 book from the library this month, that was The Familiar. The other 3 that I finished were books that I paid for in some way, so that's why my pie chart looks like Pac-Man. As far as format, things are looking very different to usual for me this month. 25% of the books that I read were print format, which is just 1 because I only read 4. 25% were audiobook, because again that was only 1. And the other 2 books were digital or ebooks, so they will make up 50% of the format pie chart. I have to let those paint markers dry for a little while before I can write over them and add those percentages, so I have to do something else while I wait for that. Let's do the average rating. My average rating for the month of July was 3.88 stars. Not an average to be sneezed at unless you have a cold like me. I mentioned earlier I'd forgotten to add a genre section to this spread when I set it up, so I'm just kind of smushing one into this empty space here. I just made a space to put the genre title on, but it's a paint marker over black, so it's kind of streaky. It needs a second coat. The genres I read in July were romance, fantasy, contemporary, magical realism, and historical. All that's left to do now is add those percentages onto my pie charts so that I know later when I'm looking at them what I'm looking at. I need to add the genre lettering onto my new little square there. I could not be bothered making a sticker just for that. Now let's have a flip through of everything that I read in July, as well as my August tracking pages all set up and ready to go. My pages have ended up a little bit wonky because I have some spaces that I've left over, but I'll just fill those up as I go. That honestly doesn't really bother me at all. Now that we've chatted about all of my reads for July, I want to hear about yours. Jump into the comments and let me know the best book that you read in July. If you have a book that you didn't enjoy in July, I want to hear about that too. If you've read any of the books that I've also read and featured in this video, let's keep the conversation going. I want to know what you think. Also, if I didn't enjoy a book that you did really enjoy, or vice versa, I just want you to know this is just my opinion and it's okay for us to have different feelings about things. Just in case you're keen to keep talking books, here is a playlist of all my reading journal videos so far this year, and right under that is a link to another video that YouTube thinks you might like.